And I think by the time we get through that, we'll avoid No Man's Sky because I'll keep you here all night. And
I see you playing it every night too.
yeah,
Every night he's on at like 11 o'clock.
that's the problem with having friends. And then they see what you're doing. It just
Oh,
Why do you think I haven't responded to your friend request yet?
yeah, I might kick you off. I don't know if I like this pressure.
you can appear offline. There's no pressure.
Oh, you can? Oh yeah, I'm offline all the time
That
now.
was
Then
patched in like I don't know, just recently too.
Yeah,
It's like- I don't know. Please don't tell people how I live.
Get away from me!
Yeah.
Don't look at me.
I don't want people
I
to
wonder
know
what-
what sort of horrible stuff I watch on Netflix.
Oh man, could you imagine? God. It's like, you're watching.
Gilmore Girls again. What are you doing?
They
Like
say
what,
you're
round
sure
three?
watching. Is your son awake at like 10 at night? Because you're watching a lot of Paw Patrol.
Yeah. New episode was released. I gotta see it.
Gotta see it. I gotta vet it.
Yeah.
Vet
I'm sure it's okay.
it. Ready?
Do it.
The adult beverages are poured, the kids are asleep. Welcome to New Dad Gaming, a show about fatherhood, gaming, and new fathers figuring out their gaming lives. My name is Trevor, and I have a 1-year-old.
My name's Gavin, and I have a 1-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old.
It's a little bizarre. Like, I have a 1-year-old, Gavin, you have a 1-year-old.
Tied.
What's the difference? Like we're 2 months apart?
Well, mine's almost a year and a month.
Okay, mine is. Wait.
Oh, we're back to the months thing again. You're like, wait, carry the
think-
one.
I think mine's coming. I think it's coming up. One embarrassingly, I think it was 14. Wait. Oh, now I'm all confused.
You do remember when your kid was born, right?
End of May. May to June. Oh, May 30th. Fine. Just want me to say it. Sometime in the May-ish area.
Got it.
May to June, July,
You know that week.
August.
You know,
So he's coming up. Okay, so a month. Yeah, so man, we're like basically within a month. Because I'm just saying, like I'm trying to think about the difference in a, let's say, 1 and 5 months versus like just barely a 1.
Hmm.
But I don't think there's even that much depending on the kid, really. Because I mean, I think I've heard of some kids not walking until they're 2, not really talking until they're 2.5. Like it's
The
all
walking,
over.
yes. From
Like
Yeah.
your kids, or just you yourself personally, Jeff?
I think I found out I was a late walker too. But
Oh, yeah?
my kids were both late walkers, but talkers right at the gate.
Yeah.
And still talking. So whatever they're doing now they will never change.
I wonder why you decided to do a podcast.
Yeah. That's right. I just want to talk all the time.
Be perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Gavin to everyone, a world-renowned game producer. Having a game release, was it just today that this game came out?
Yeah. Today's the official release date.
Man, so Gavin, having in the background been working on this game for now, that was a 1 year, 2 year process of your artwork?
1 year. I went on board on the game like summer of last year.
So
And
you
then,
basically took this on the same time as, this is the second child you took on, basically.
Yeah. Actually, I took it on before my kid arrived. It was it was pretty like late spring, early summer. So yeah, it was definitely a juggling act doing, working on like producing a video game and working on a lot of artwork for it, and also figuring out bringing a child into the world and keeping it alive. It was definitely spinning plates is not even an accurate analogy. It was definitely a stressful time. Like, it was really hard to find that balance between the two. Like, even leading up to the actual delivery date, I was also trying to get like certain benchmark or certain milestones done with some of the game assets. So I was trying to get that stuff done. I will also note that that's not the only game I was working on at the time, because I'm a masochist. And so I was kind of helping prepare both of those games like a nice stockpile of art because I knew, okay, this is the due date for the baby, so I'm going to be kind of MIA for a month and a bit, just while we get settled. So I was even just leading up to that was just like work, and just get them all set. And then once they were kind of adequately set up with a good batch of art assets and mock-ups and that, that's when I was like, okay, and I'm gonna go learn how this dad thing works. And then,
I guess
I
we're
went to
looking at my
that.
kid.
Yeah, yeah. So I got, and then yeah, after that it was right back into it. But then it was trying to figure out the new shift in how I'm supposed to work because leading up to before having a kid, I just worked from home because I could. Uh, but then afterwards, it kind of became an impossibility because my house, the dynamic of the house and the function of the house had changed entirely. Um, so it sort of like switched that up a bit, and then trying to figure out a way of getting that work done and also maintaining a proper work-life balance so that way I was getting these projects done and getting these meeting these deadlines and requirements and builds and getting everything ready so that way their production wasn't held up, but also maintaining a work-life balance so I wasn't missing out on like the important stuff of being a father and those early few months where it's like, you know, don't want to be too buried in work and then just, you know, the cats in the cradle and the silver spoon sort of thing. Um, so yeah, that was definitely like it was stressful, but I think I managed to maintain decent balance and also like maintain, you know, seeing through my commitments and my responsibilities in regards to the game, but also my responsibility and my commitment and my pure want as far as being a dad and wanting to be there for my family. So but it was definitely it was stressful figuring that out and finding that balance. Luckily, I think I'm starting to figure it out. I don't think I've got it totally figured out. I might never get it totally figured out, but at the end of the day, I'm still able to spend time with my family and still able to work on really amazing projects. And for the most part, the people I'm working with, as far as I know, my neuroses is telling me that to doubt things, but no, the projects go really well and I'm really happy with the work that gets produced. They're very happy with the work that gets produced. We're really proud of the end result of the game that just got launched, and then you know the other games coming down the pipe. Also super proud of what was produced with them as well. So yeah, it's really fun to be working on these projects. But yeah, it's doing that simultaneously with figuring out how to be a dad for the first time was definitely roller coaster ride. But yeah, so yeah, that was what I was doing for a year.
So didn't the president of Sony tweet out like some was it just some of your work? Was it a retweet of yours that he did?
Actually, that was done by Ben. Like that piece of work was done specifically by Ben, because like he had already done a significant amount of work before I even came on. And it was kind of I was brought on when like the game was sort of like he was like, okay, this thing is starting to grow and starting to turn into something that might need more than one artist on board. So then I was brought on to sort of help out with that, and I just sort of fell into doing environments and focusing mostly on the environments and like the in-game environments that the character interacts with. I did do a few backgrounds for like the cutscene stuff similar to that one photo that was done. But yeah, to be tagged in a tweet from that gentleman was a highlight of last night, that's for sure.
So it's like so when that happens is like so a Sony like a new PlayStation just shows up at your house, right? Like
Big number two is called Shu Yoshida.
Yep.
yeah, I think you're legally obligated now to name your baby after him.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
just how it
Exactly.
works. That's
How it works.
so
So
the
yeah, that's pretty well it. Like the game came out today. I'm not sure if you mentioned the title yet. Did we mention
Yeah,
the
did we
title?
mention the title? Because I was about to say, I'm like, I don't think we
This is
did.
being very
Well,
vague.
I don't want this to be
Okay,
too much of a commercial podcast, so I don't know if we
yeah,
want to
whatever.
become
Shameless self-promotion. The game is called Alone with You. It was developed
alone
by
with you. Sorry.
Alone with You,
Mhm.
developed by Benjamin Rivers. There was also a few other members on the team, including myself. You can see all about it in the game's opening credits when you purchase it and enjoy it. It's available on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita, and it's also cross-buy. So if you buy it for one, you have it for both. Um, and actually, it's been getting a lot of good buzz for the Vita because it's a system that people who really do like their Vita really like their Vita. And whenever that system gets some love by way of new games, um, it's usually quite well received. But you know, Ben was very, very thorough at making sure that the functionality for the Vita was there. Because it's a system that is um, it's a very good platform, but it's sometimes not not enough love is given to it, especially with some of the ports and stuff. But Ben was very thorough, making sure it functioned well, that the font sizes were appropriate, people could read, everything was legible, um, because it is a very text-heavy game because it's a narrative game. So, but also he has a pretty solid background being a graphic designer, so he knew how to make all that stuff work. But anyways, yeah, that's the game. It's a science fiction romance narrative adventure. Uh, if you like classic point and click, and if you like sort of exploring relationships for the sake of just the whole idea of human interaction and human relationships and bonds, it's definitely something to check out. And it's Star Trek, holodeck, all those fun little things. If you like that sort of stuff, it's good.
Yeah, because yeah, another thing to ask you about it, because in my just of course my normal news consumption, like I came across no fewer than 3 reviews of the game, two
Mm-hmm.
of which like you were called out by name, so which is kind of exciting to
It
live
is.
to live gloriously through you in that sense. But yeah, no, just reading the feeds. There it is, alone with you. Rave review, like on not rave maybe. I don't want to say that. But excellent reviews. Like for the ones that I read, they seem to really be getting it, and those who didn't quite had a lot of respect for it and its target. I guess what I'm curious now is you're on. All too often, we're reading just the reviews, like we're on the side of like either giving it or yeah, like heck, even on this show, like we do nothing but talk about video games, right? And just
Yeah.
like, oh, this game's garbage, and I didn't
You
like
know,
it, and look, what were they thinking? And now you're on that other side of it. So I mean, walk us through a little bit around your headspace as you're reading these online. You're like, what if there's a podcast of mothers with new babies, and they take up your
Our
game?
sister show, right? That's our
Yeah,
sister show? Yeah.
and they proceed to just like rip it apart for like in an alternate. How does it feel, Gavin? How does it feel to be on the other side?
yeah, you definitely do get defensive of it because like you pour a lot into it. Um, that work kind of becomes something that you've been doing for a long time. So you do read stuff and um, you definitely need a thick skin, even if you do that. Whenever occasionally there's a criticism on it, whether or not you agree with it, it still stings. And yeah, you do get a little bit defensive of it. It is almost kind of like being how that you're extra defensive of your kid. You know, and someone's like, you're like, oh, your baby's pretty small, and you're like, why? She's the best. And you just sort of get all, yeah. So, um, yeah, it's weird to see, but it's also one of those things too where you definitely have to take a step back and thoroughly read through and um, it's like any critique and whatnot. Like with my main background being in illustration and that, I usually get a lot of feedback from art directors, and sometimes it'd be hard to hear. I've had some that were even hard to read, uh, just because it's like, oh wow, okay, yeah, all right, you could have softened that up a bit, but fine, left hook to the jaw it is. But yeah, you have to pick it apart and really look at it and see like, okay, well, which of this is something where it's like, yeah, this is something to know for next time. This is something that I should maybe be aware of for next time. But then also like trying to discern that from things where it's like, okay, well, it's just more of a personal taste thing. as opposed to an actual criticism on the validity of the decision that was made, um, or the merit of the overall work. Uh, so yeah, it's trying to figure out the two, and not take either one personally. And if it's something where you're like, you can disagree with criticism, and you can agree with criticism, but you definitely have to pay attention to criticism. You can't just ignore it and be like, my game's a mess, it's so great. Um, but yeah, so far though, I've been very, very pleased with the reviews I'm getting. It seems to be resonating well with the audience it was intended for. Some of the reviews that we've had, you can tell that the people reviewing it probably just wasn't their cup of tea because it wasn't their sort of thing, and that's totally cool. Like, it's not meant for everyone, but the people it was meant for seem to really, really appreciate it, and that's the important part. Is that's like that's the audience it was made for, and if they're digging it, then great. If the audience it was made for wasn't really enjoying it as much, then I would have been, a little bit more concerned. But I'm really pleased with how it is. But it's so surreal being on that end of it because it's just, yeah, it's so hard to be critical of something else, but it's really hard to kind of accept that criticism, because it's also, I think sometimes it's easier to critique than to create. And I don't mean that as like a criticism on people who do review stuff. Like, it is a very difficult job, but sometimes like the duration of time it takes to create the game versus the duration of time it takes for somebody to review it is significantly different. So somebody's attachment to the words that they're choosing for a review versus somebody's attachment to the decisions they made creatively for the overall project, there's a little bit more gravity on the one than the other because there's been more time for it to attach itself to that individual. So it can be a little tough, but as long as you make sure that you don't take it on the chin too hard, and you just sort of like, okay, that was valid, but also don't take the praise too much, in the sense like you're like, oh, that was really sweet of them to say, other than just like holding it above your head in triumph and running through the streets. It's you have to take both with some sense of overall being grounded, and just like, okay, that's a good point. I'll remember that. That's a very flattering point. I appreciate it. Fantastic, and then just get excited for the next time.
Yeah, I think
I've dabbled in that.
it's a point that I keep hoping that where the internet kind of matures, because it's kind of feels like it's boiled down to a point where it's not about nuanced, quiet opinions on things. Where like the review, or as opposed to a review being, I didn't quite like it, but there's some parts I appreciate, and that's great. It's more like the dumpster fire of the year.
Yeah.
Worst, it's about, or like this is the greatest thing, or the hyperbole of this is the greatest thing you'll play all year. Like it can't, because it's something reasonable and quiet in the middle doesn't get the attention, unfortunately, with the type of like knee-jerk reaction of the net, and it's upsetting because like some things just are pretty good, and like there's some people will kind of like. I like to think that we do okay on the show. I don't know that we play around too much on the far edges of hyperbole for both for and against. I think we tend to try to think like it's not quite for me, as opposed to except Jeff, right? With except Jeff in side launch. But besides that,
that's horrible. Let's just not go there. Yeah, instead of giving things a number where anything below an 8 sucks. In the internet, you know what I mean? Like, oh no, I only got an 8. It's not amazing. I'm not gonna buy it. Pass. Wait till it goes on sale. That's the mentality now. But then they'll go and buy, a 99-cent App Store game, and
well, it's also from laziness too. Like, people don't want to read a review; they just want to look at the color-coded numerical system to know whether or not to buy it. And it's like the review's not that long, people. The reviewer spent some time actually composing some very poignant thoughts on the matter. Like, read it, because there's a lot of there's one thing too that I've been reading with the reviews for the game that just to bring it back to me. Was that with some of the reviews that I'm reading is the numerical score isn't as accurate, or I guess the numerical score isn't accurately reflecting what they wrote and what they're saying. So reading the actual review, it might not actually read as a 7. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they in the review itself, they're making some very valid points, and they're talking about the things that they really liked and the stuff that they thought was really successful, some of the things that didn't quite resonate with them, and it's a really well crafted review and a good sort of discussion about what about the game worked for them and what about it didn't. But then they put a number with it, and that number to like the general broad audience might not reflect what they were trying to say. But it's also hard too because they're part of almost like a system that requires that numerical value. So it's tough because there's some that I was reading, and it's like the actual written one was worked really well, and I really appreciate it, I really agreed with it. And then the numerical value, I didn't really quite feel reflected what they were saying, but I didn't really hold that against them. Like it was just a thing where it's like that's the number that they picked, and in reality, that number is still a valid number on a scale of 1 to 10. It's still a number that does reflect, like, yeah, it had some good parts, it had some parts I didn't agree with. This is the number I gave it. But unfortunately, with this, like, well, it's 8 out of 10, I'm not going to bother sort of mentality, sometimes with other people reading the reviews or not reading the reviews, I think a lot of stuff falls by the wayside. So I'd say, if anything, as a consumer, remember to read your reviews, and that's something I try to do too. I try not to look too much at the numerical values because a lot of games I really like that their actual number score wasn't the same as what I read in the reviews, or even heard in the video reviews. So yeah, it's figuring out. It's not just relying solely on the score.
Yeah,
And
go on.
I can give you a dad review because I've downloaded it and played it. So about an hour and a half.
Hey, Gavin, close your ears for a second. Things are about to get real.
And I was actually playing with my 3-year-old, so I could
because it's a baby game. It's a game for babies, Gavin.
The art is very pleasing to him, right? So there's no murder scenes that I've come across yet. So it's very pleasing to him. He's wondering why the astronaut wears a scarf. Maybe it's cold on that planet. But that was one of his questions. He liked the scarf. He liked walking around, so he can control them because it's like point and click, like you said, right? So I can tell him where to go, and he can kind of go and do the buttons. So that was kind of interesting to do with him, and then that way I could experience it, and then he could play along, and he felt like a king controlling it, right? Because he could control where this character is going.
Like, you can't fall in a cliff or anything like that.
No. So it's very like not enclosed, but it's in an isolated space where he can't go and like die all the time.
There's a lot of baby gates.
Yeah, it's discovering the information, coming back with it, interacting with the other characters and stuff. So he had a blast with it, and he noted some funny things that I have on video. I might put it up on our Facebook page and stuff. Just why is it always raining? He's got a scarf. I won't get that. That'll get wet. I don't. So stuff like that. That was pretty cute. But it's good. It's so far I'm into it. I haven't discovered what it's about yet. But there's mystery there that I'm clicking around to find out.
To hear too that it's something that you've been able to experience with your kid. Like that's some pretty fun stuff.
Yeah. I don't fully trust that computer in that game. The computer AI that's your friend. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not so sure about him. And he talks to you like he's your friend, right? And I'm like, no. I've seen some movies of this.
We've been down this path.
Space Odyssey.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I'm going to try to introduce this one to my wife. I want to see because I think it has good wife ability.
That's a good word. I like that word.
I like that. That's fun.
But I think just because of the a lot of the reviews that I read, like, just couldn't stop raving about the art style. Like, again, nod to yourself, and then the story as well, and then just how it encapsulates. And how capturing the story is, and like how interesting it is to go, and like the choices you get to make. And I think especially when I think that kind of branches and you get to make decisions and choices and follow certain paths, like that definitely works as kind of a couple game where it's like you get to together decide like where you're gonna go. So no, I'm excited to play my copy too and see.
Awesome. Yeah, it's very much based on the exploration relationship. So it's kind of, I'm excited to see people playing it with their significant other, just to see, like, how how they may have similarities and differences in how they pursue some of the dialogue options and the relationship options. Because I'm not sure if it's going to be a bit of a litmus test for some of the relationships, um, but yeah, no, I think it's. I'm excited to see people playing it together. That's kind of I think what is good about this game is that it is one that's it's less about hand-eye coordination and reflexes and things like that, and it's more of a cognitive experience, I guess. Not to downplay like games that are more about reflexes and that sort of catharsis of just like, I pulled off that trick, awesome. This one's less about that interaction, more about interacting with the story itself and the characters and the relationships that they build. So I think that has a lot of interesting co-op, like couch co-op opportunities to it that I'm curious to see sort of played out. So, the fact that, couch co-op with your son or couch co-op with your wife, like I think that's both of those are really interesting scenarios. I'm curious to see how they go.
Well, it'd be well deserving of kudos if heck, you were a bachelor with too much time on your hands, but the fact that you pulled this off as a dad is
Yeah.
especially remarkable. So
Surprised you don't have any gray hair. It's like, what it gives.
Oh, I do.
yeah, why am I the only one balding? What is this? You don't deserve that frock with like all the stress you went through. What is this? But yeah,
I internalized it all, so I'm just rotting on the inside. It's okay.
the man, it's a
But
great.
actually, I do have gray hair now, so I attribute some of that to this game.
There it goes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
very nice.
I'm starting to get a bit of a, that little bit on the side, which I'm fine with. I don't care.
It's
Let's go gray.
distinguished.
Distinguished look. There you go.
Earned every strand. Darn it.
I don't mind.
Now,
Going gray doesn't bother me at all as long as it sticks around.
so moving right along, another dad here had a great experience.
Yes, I'm excited to hear about this.
Yeah, so Jeff has tried PSVR. You're the second one of us to try it, and obviously I raved about it. What, man, walk us through it. What was your experience with PlayStation Virtual Reality?
It is so good.
Yeah!
It is so good.
Wait, is it like side launch good?
Oh my god, that's the scale we're going off now. No, it's completely blew my mind. Like,
Yeah.
where they put all these commercials and trailers out for VR, it does not do it justice. And I knew that going in. Like, yeah, there's got to be some virtual reality to it, but for some reason, I think everything in that world is on rails. So everything is just, you're going along and you're just kind of experiencing it. Well, the demo I played was the Eve Valkyrie, and it's definitely not on rails. So, like, just this. Okay, so you put on the headset. I'll go quickly. You put on the headset.
Talk. I want to hear this. Talk through it.
And the guy's like, which game do you want to play? I'm like, nah, I gotta go Eve Valkyrie, right? Because there's people lining up behind me. I have to go Eve Valkyrie. I need this game. So you put the headset on, you adjust it, which is super simple, right? One button pulls it in or out, non-blurry. So with glasses, I don't see it as a problem at all. And then you go into the game, and so you're in this cockpit. The window shuts down on you. You look down, your chest is armor. So it's like an in-game character. You look to the side and you can see your arms. Like, they're not motion tracked, but they're there. And then you're in this ship that you think is pretty big because it covers your whole view. But then you look outside and you see these huge turrets from your ship. So just the scale of it was nuts. And then it lit the runway, and all of a sudden you're blasting off and you're controlling this sucker, and you get out of this carrier, and then you're in like the depths of space where you're so small. Now you got these huge carriers flying by, and if you've ever done like a barrel roll in like Star Fox and you're like, yeah, this is awesome, do it in VR and it's nuts. Like, it's crazy. I was looking behind me. You could look behind you and see all the enemies come in, and your friends your wingmen trying to stay in formation and stuff. So you can see everything. Like, you look above and see a guy like float over top of you. Like, it is so good.
I don't know. I think Jeff might have liked it.
When I was done with it though, like, I played through the game, and it's about 5 minutes or so to give you a taste. And the guy gives you a flyer. He gives you a flyer, and he's like, "This is how much it costs, and here you go." And
Yeah.
and I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's not so bad. Like it for that experience, it would be pretty cool to do. But while you're in it, as a dad, noting, you are completely immersed. Like he was talking
Yeah.
to me, and I couldn't hear him at all. So to have a baby run around, it's not gonna fly unless you
Yeah.
do it without sound. Like it's not possible.
Yeah, like I think if you're, yeah, and I'll agree. Like I think if you're home, if your wife goes out for the night and you're home babysitting, like
Yeah.
even if they're asleep, like you probably can't do this.
Can't do
Yes.
it. No, there's no way. You're totally in the game.
Yeah.
But then, so my wife was behind me, and she's like, "Well, I want to do one."
Yeah.
She sat down and she did Into the Deep or The Deep.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the shark cage one. So you go into a cage and you're lowering down into the ocean, and you can see what she's seeing on the TV screen. So I can see what she's trying to do, and she's looking all around, and there's beautiful stingrays, and the graphics are like video, and like a turtle, and you can see she's like kind of smiling, and then she's like, it's getting darker on screen because you're going lower into the ocean. She's asking the guy, she's like, are there any jump scares in this game? And the guy's like, well, and I'm like, no, there's not. There's no jump scare. I don't know. But no jump scares. She's like, no, I can't do jump scares. So she takes it off.
Oh.
And then he looks over at me and he's like, do you want to take her turn? I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah. Oh.
So I got to play that one.
Sorry, I love that she's smart enough to know better. Like, it's
Yeah,
like, wait,
she's like, no,
I know what
I'm
you're
not gonna
doing.
do it. But
I
that
like how
one,
she's smart enough to know better, but then he turns and looks at Jeff and he's like, "Are you not?" And
well, I'm
he's
still
like,
smiling from
"I'm
I'm like,
not."
I'll go. So I did that one too, and that one is crazy. Like the graphics are nuts. So there's this shark that swims around you, and eventually like tries to attack you or whatever. But oh my god, it's like you could reach out and touch the inside of the jaws of the shark. It was just mind-boggling, and I think like a lot of reviews like dwell on like there's some blurriness and it's not quite clear. I'm like, I experienced none of that. Like when it's in motion, it's awesome. Like it's insane. So I don't know if these are like super high-powered demos, and like I checked with a guy, I'm like, this is just a PS4, right? We're not running off some secret Neo PS4 hardware, like, because that's come out that the Neo will make these games run better or something. But he's like, no, regular PS4. Here's the price. So I don't know. It's a serious consideration. Like again, it's $600 that I don't necessarily have, but holy crap, it blew my mind away. It's so good, and there's still experiences going on now. So I invite you to go and test them. Like they're still at malls around.
Yeah, I might check it out, but I know it's like
Oh, it's so good.
a ways away. I think like the best way to do it would be to have like a little man cave room,
Yes,
and
definitely.
like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, honey, I'm gonna go into the cave.
I'm going into my own world. Bye.
I'll come out in a bit.
Yeah.
I'm
But
kind of
then
curious
it's
about
It's no different than it's like instead of being like I'm going to the pub, it's like I'm staying in the house, but I'm gonna be just as indisposed.
Yeah, exactly.
see for
So-
some of the other modes where it throws up the huge screen. So like I don't know if he explained it to you, but some of the stuff is if you're watching a movie,
Yeah.
it's as if you're sitting in front of a 150-foot-inch screen,
Yeah.
and same for games. So even games that's not optimized for it. And I imagine a case where if you wanted to be, because even when I'm playing games, I always like to be around my wife anyways, because I'm at work all day, so I don't like to necessarily be shut off. And I just wonder if a case like for a game that's less about immersion, you can kind of just have the one headset in, still have that here, and you're kind of talking, but you have. So I can literally, I can almost imagine us sitting in bed and like she's reading or something, and you just have your goggles on, and you're in front of the screen.
Yeah.
So you're still present, like you're still together, and you're even talking, but like not like you're not bothering her with the TV and like.
Trevor,
It
you're
depends- it
so
depends.
romantic.
So what?
You're so romantic.
Yeah, just old fashioned. Call me old fashioned, folks. But
Call me old-fashioned, but I like to keep my left ear reserved for my life.
I'm in. When I'm immersed in virtual reality, never stops me from keeping one ear open for a good old lady.
Yeah, no, I could totally see it. Just an enclosed space where you live your own world, wrapped in this virtual reality. Even the menus on it were like sticking out, like so to select your game. It's just so good.
So much. It's just so much to take in.
It is. There are demos now where Drive Club is going to release a VR set, so for
Yeah.
free. And the one guy was playing it, and he's like, the side view and rear view mirrors work. So he was instinctively checking the mirrors just as he was driving, and they were totally functional. So he's like, this is insane. Like, just the amount of work that has gone into it. It's just... Resident Evil, though, I don't know. That's going to kill people for that. But
It's gonna be the first heart attack or something. Like something's not gonna go well. Like, or it's just gonna be broken devices because like they're thrashing around and like they
throw it
smash
off.
something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one I'm not. I could care less to be scared, but like the Drive Club stuff, like that, like man, like to actually just be in, like I didn't really cover it, but your summation of it was really stirring, just around like to describe it as scale.
Yeah.
Because in many ways, like you drive to the Grand Canyon to experience the scope, like the scale, like it's unbelievable the size of that, and then as opposed to just like this little box that is showing you a picture
Yeah.
of a big ship, like it's like you are
Yeah.
in front of something bigger than the Grand Canyon, and you can attack it if
Yeah.
you so choose.
Yeah,
Like
no,
Yeah.
that is it's the sense of scale, especially in that game. Like enemies just warp into you like at full light speed and then stop, and they're huge, and they're just huge, floating over you. It's just it sets you back, and I'm sure that will wear off as time goes on. But like I can only imagine like a Shadow of the Colossus fighting this huge, giant virtual reality crazy thing, climbing it. I don't know, like it'll be nuts. Potential. Christmas time. I'm telling you, Christmas.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough. I think it's gonna be tough to find. Like I know all the pre-orders are already gone.
Well, Gavin's in with Sony. Just get a couple.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Probably just get free ones. There we are.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, president of Sony. That's too great. So Jensen, we might move right along. Going to keep it a tight show this week, but if we could move along to the beer picks, we could wrap everything up here. So myself, I guess I'll pitch in first. So not drinking anything tonight. Actually went to the gym and I'm tired. So,
Oh.
but yeah. Does beer build muscle? Probably. I don't know. But it's funny because I was able to go to this craft brewery place, or a place that serves craft brews, and specifically, I think it's called Thirsty Coyote, and nothing but craft beers there, and a constantly rotating tap. Like it's an incredible bar. It's really cool, and I cannot believe it. But I went 0 for 4. 4 beers, didn't like any of them. I couldn't. I got a rail. Yes. Yeah. But I got one of those rails, so just like they come up in as 4 smaller size beers, so you can just sample a bunch of things. I just none. I didn't like any of them. I think the benefit is I think that ultimately, even with a craft beer, much like a game made with like soul and artistry and intent, even if you don't like it, you can kind of appreciate it. And I think it's one thing I've always enjoyed about craft beer, where even if I don't enjoy the taste, you can see that they're doing something. Like they're trying, and it's just like, that's not for me. I don't like it. So, I would want to. I might suggest everyone goes and try these one, but they just didn't do it for me. So I had the. So I'll try to do them quickly. So it was a Wellington Kickback, and like Wellington, I like. Like I've enjoyed. I think I've even recommended the Wellington SPA Special Pale Ale. I gave it a 3 out of 10 on my score.
Wow.
I found it a bit watery, but the taste was there, but just a bit watery. Generally kind of refreshing, but just like wasn't there for me. So the Wellington Kickback. I had a side launch. I did have a side launch Mountain.
Yeah.
It was called. And again, it was just very sparse. I found it personally. Like it wasn't much to it. Like I found it light, bubbly, and fruity, but almost like too much so, where it's just not enough of a beer there for me to appreciate. So I give that a 5 out of 10. So side launch Mountain. I had the Sam Roberts Session Ale from Spearhead. Yeah. So Canadian rocker Sam Roberts apparently did some sort of
His own sweats in it or something.
his own brand of rock and roll. Kids don't know how to because the kids can't dance to rock and roll, and Sam Roberts apparently can't make a beer. So it's
You wrote that down.
I didn't. That just came off. I'm owning that.
It looked like you were reading it. I'm like, oh my god, he came up with it.
I swear to God, that was off the top of my head. I'm pretty proud of it. Don't you take that from me. So it was bitter, hoppy. There's some good notes of flavor, but just like so much bitterness and hoppiness just wasn't my cup. And otherwise, last one was like Sawdust City Golden Beach.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I had that one in King.
Yeah. Now, did you like it? Because I found the notes I have on are hoppy, like dry and fruity. Again, kind of flavor there, but just wasn't my. I didn't quite enjoy it. Now, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I remember it being fairly hoppy. I thought it was good, but it was definitely like a. You could maybe sit down to one, but you wouldn't want to do more than that because it just kind of overtake the palate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember it being somewhat hoppy, and yeah, just that. I hate to say it, but it's like that sort of typical microbrew base flavor of like that.
Of too many hops.
Yeah.
Microbrews tend to be a little heavy on the hops. You know, it's like new fusion restaurants being heavy on the cilantro. Like it's a growing pain they all go through.
Yeah, so it was bizarre, man. I've never, man, 0 for 4. Just did not like. I would not buy any of these, unfortunately.
Wow.
Again, as always, as I say, I'd suggest anybody go and try them. They were certainly trying. It wasn't like they were dialing it in and screw these people. We'll just give them this sledge water. But 0 for 4, unbelievable. Gentlemen, yourselves.
I decided to have one beer.
Yeah.
I picked up Spark House Red Ale. It's brewed by Lake of Bays Brewery. I'm getting close there. I picked it up because it reminded me how much I still want to play Firewatch.
Yeah. Right away.
So that's why I picked it up. I also really like red ales, and it's a very nice red ale. That sort of red ales can have that nice little bit of bitterness in the back, and this one's got it. But it's refreshing, relatively smooth. Yeah, as far as red ales go, it's solid. I like it. You know, kind of like a little bit slightly more mature Rickard's Red, I guess, is a way of for people who might not drink a lot of red ales. Side note: in college, we used to order a lot of Rickard's Red. Me and other people that we would, go to the local watering hole after class, and we'd always refer to it as R&R because it's R&R time. So yeah. Anyways,
After class.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm drinking just a James already.
I
Cheap.
saw somebody getting like case after case after case of that at the beer store the other day, and I was wondering, like, what is this stuff? So yeah, please continue, because this man bought like my weight times 5.
The whole stock.
He cleared it out, or else I would have tried some.
Yeah, it's I'll relate it to Keats. So if you've had just a regular pale ale, it kind of tastes like that. A little bit less smooth than Keats, but strong, 5.5. Well, strong enough, and it's really cheap. Like it used to be even cheaper, but now it's kind of my go-to if nothing's on sale. So it's like I don't really feel the mood for $50 2-4, so I'll splurge for I think this is $30 at that point. Yeah. So, and they used to have cool sayings in the cap, but I think they might have offended people or something, but they've taken that out. So they're still like there, but it's drawings. So maybe it's people interpret what they mean instead of just. I forget what they were saying, but they was like, I don't know, you're an idiot or something. I don't know, or drink one more for James or something. But it's pretty good. I enjoy it now and again. But drink too many like I have, and you do get quite a hangover from this stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know what's
got a bit of a sugar content to it.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, warning on there.
Those craft beer hangovers are the worst.
Yeah, it's brutal. And being old.
James ready.
Yep, JR.
Get ready for your night.
Just keep coming up with it, man. You wrote that one down too.
Yeah, I knew what you were gonna have. I just have about all the beer puns ready to go.
Yep.
He's got like 4 Rolodexes on his table there. Just cycling through.
Kid's not gonna know what hits him. Got so many dad puns ready to go.
Man.
So everybody, thank you so much for listening once again. This has been New Dad Gaming. If you'd like to get a hold of us with a show idea, questions, or just to reach out to say hi, if you'd like an autograph from Gavin, for instance, you can feel free to reach out. You can find.
Wants an autograph.
I'll take your autograph. I'll take it. Got to catch you now on as you skyrocket up.
You just want to forward my signature.
Well, other uses. Gotta afford that PSVR somehow.
Yeah, I was gonna say you just want my signature for PSVR. That's what I want.
So you can find us on our website at newdadgaming.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes as well as Google Play and many other podcasting services. And once again, we do it weekly, and thanks so much for subscribing, liking, spreading it around. So until next week, everybody, my name is Trevor, and I have a 1-year-old.
My name is Gavin. I have a 1-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Great, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
See ya.